Instead of going out to Lisbon, Portugal this weekend as we had originally planned, we decided to stay here in Madrid. That was mainly because a lot of my friends started to realize that they were bleeding money, and money was just flying out of their pockets faster than they ever could have realized. So they needed to start conserving their spending habits just a little bit. So we stayed here, and this weekend I tried to go to the Penalara Nature Reserve once again and see some of the areas I hadn't seen before, and I also went to the Palacio Real and walked around inside. The Palacio Real is the royal palace of Spain. Also, I tried to look ahead to after this trip and try to start working on some plans for what I was going to do with my travels. But all throughout this time, we haven't had much to do because we had some issues with our power and electricity here in the apartment. My friends tried to use the kitchen, and we soon discovered that whenever you use the stovetop, the entire power in the apartment goes out and the circuits start flipping. So every few minutes we have to flip the switch, hoping that the power will come back on, and then it cuts out, and without power there's no internet. So it's been kind of a nightmare weekend. We've had electricians in and out, we haven't had power, we haven't had internet, but we still made do, and we kind of just had the opportunity to relax, hang out with each other a little bit, and that's what we needed halfway through, because we're starting to get a little tired, and we just needed a little break, and that's what this weekend was for us. Hey everyone, I am back here at the Penalara Nature Reserve in Segovia, Spain, and we've been hiking a lot today. We've been hiking about an hour and a half, fairly rough terrain, and we wound up here, and it's La Laguna de las Parajas, and it is really amazing. It's kind of an overcast day, but we are literally in the clouds. Like, we can see the clouds touching the tops of these mountain peaks, and just a minute ago, I'm here with my friend, and we heard this airplane, and we were joking around, we're like, oh, it's flying in the clouds, and we look up and it's literally coming out of the clouds, like right up there, and we can see it, and it's really close to us, and we were grabbing for our cameras to take a picture of it, and so we are really high up, but it's been absolutely spectacular. It's basically completely quiet here. It is crystal clear water. There's no one else around us. It's perfect nature pretty much. I don't think many places like this exist still in the world, and I'm so glad that I was able to come back here. So, as you can see, I'm still alive, and I obviously went back, once again, to the Penalara Nature Reserve. I went there last weekend, but it was so amazing, and I just didn't have enough time that I wanted to go back this weekend. And so, one of my friends from the apartment and I got on an early train, headed for 2 hours to Segovia, Spain, near there, and took a mountain train until we were at the Penalara Nature Reserve. And we took a longer trail this time, so we saw the glacial lake, but then we headed towards another one, and it was a pretty rough and rugged terrain. It took us about 2.5 hours to get there, I would say, and we were pretty tired. We were sore, but the views were so amazing that we just couldn't stop to think about any pain that we were in. The waters were crystal clear. There were mountain streams running everywhere. We still saw cows, some of them right on top of glaciers pretty much. It was just so cool to be completely alone in nature. It was a Friday afternoon, and so no one was around pretty much, like they would be on the weekend, and so it's just us two together on a mountaintop enjoying incredible nature. When we were at the lake, as I mentioned, we saw this plane just come out of the clouds, and the picture that I have doesn't do it justice. And I know that planes don't fly that close to mountains, but it was incredibly close. We had no idea that we would ever be that close to a plane in the sky. Being so high in the sky, we were able to see the weather change as it was happening. We saw clouds coming over the mountain peaks directly in front of us, and within a minute we were experiencing the weather that they were bringing. And it was an overcast day, as I mentioned, so we were a bit worried about the weather because there was a threat of rain. Well, we soon realized that a threat of rain is actually a threat of hail when you're that high up in the mountains. And so once we were to our final destination at the lake, and we were ready to come back, we started to experience some hail for a brief second. And so we got really worried that we were going to have to hike back an hour and a half over slick rocks. And fortunately, that wasn't what happened. The hail slowly stopped and became sunny again. But it was quite worrisome for a while to be that high up in the mountains with cold temperatures and changing weather, and you're experiencing it as it happened. And so it was a highlight pretty much of both of our entire stays here in Spain. I would definitely rank it as top 3, if not the top place in Spain for me. And the best thing was that I found this on my own. No guidebooks that I have or I'd heard about this from anyone else. It's just a friend referencing it, and so I was really happy that I could make my own excitement here in Madrid and not have to rely on others to tell me what to do and what to see in Madrid. I found stuff on my own, which is really fun for a change. So I went to the Palacio Real on Wednesday with one of my friends. We didn't have class in the afternoon because the professor was in Barcelona. And so we decided to take the opportunity and visit this landmark of Spain. And it's basically been the royal palace of the royal family for centuries and centuries. This palace is the largest palace in Western Europe, and it has over 135,000 square meters and also 2,800 rooms. So it's absolutely huge. And so we were able to walk around and see the throne room, the dining room, all these famous rooms, the porcelain room. I mean, it was pretty amazing. And all this was built way, way back in, I think it was the 10th century. The families actually came to the palace in the 1500s, but it's been around for a long time. And it's weird to think of all this being made long before America was even formed. It was a nice opportunity, though, just to see a little of the history of Spain instead of just the culture as it is right now. Now that the summer session is starting to wrap up, I need to start looking ahead for my travels after the session is over. And so I have 40 days of travel in 8 Western European countries. And so I need to make sure that I have hostels booked and looking at trains and all of that. And I did a lot of research beforehand, but I haven't booked hardly anything. And so I want to make sure that I have everything lined up about 2 weeks in advance so that I don't have to be surprised when I arrive into a city and I don't have anywhere to stay. And so I started looking for my first few days, and the first country I'm going to visit is France. And I don't speak French at all. My Spanish has gotten me by here, but it's still not great. And so I was really worried because I had to call up this hostel to reserve for 2 nights in the French Alps. So I called up and they answered in French, and I tried to ask them if they spoke English, but apparently they didn't even understand my version of that in French. And so they hung up on me after about 20 seconds, and I called back later, and someone who spoke English answered the phone, and I got in my reservation. But I've had a rude awakening to the fact that my language skills are not going to cut it because I don't speak any French, or German, or Italian, or especially Greek, any of these things. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how this summer is going to work out. But at least I have a few things booked now for after my travels, and I'm really excited to share that portion of the summer with you as well. So here's to the future.